Once again, thank you very much for staying with us right here on News Today. The JSE is considering public comment on proposed amendments to listings requirements. However, this process has been criticized by auditors who find it tedious. Auditors say the new requirements have resulted in a backlog of applications for sign-off accreditation for financial statements. The JSE has overhauled its rules and is proposing to shift most of the burden of accreditation from the board to the boss. The Independent Regulatory Board for Auditors says its workload increased after the JSE added new requirements for debt insurers. This was worsened by the addition of audit partner rotations required by the Companies Act. The board stopped conducting inspections for accreditation purposes in June, stating this interfered with the audit quality oversight. Yvonne Kgoedi from Sizwe Ntsaluba-Gobodo says they now have very few JSE accredited partners as a result of the new requirements. Now, to tell you about the new requirements, the JSE provides facilities for the listings of the securities to users with an orderly marketplace for trading and to regulate the market accordingly. So the listings requirements apply to companies that are seeking a listing for the first time or those that are presently listed. But then how does this affect auditing companies? Yvonne Kgoedi now is here to tell us. She's from Sizwe Ntsaluba-Gobodo. Thank you very much for making time to talk to us.
Okay, thank you so much, Colin, for the opportunity.
Yeah, tell us about the inconvenience that's going to be caused by the new listings requirements.
Look, I think firstly I would like to mention that we've got a very good relationship with the EBA and the JSE, and the proposed amendments are actually meant to make things better. Because the EBA decided they are no longer going to participate in doing reviews specifically for the JSE, then the JSE had to go back to the drawing board and say, how do we then fast track this accreditation process? Let's relook at our accreditation model, because currently the JSE requirements says that an auditor, in order to be accredited, needs to have a satisfactory result from the EBA. And the EBA is saying we don't have the capacity to be able to be dishing out those letters or conducting the reviews actually. So the JSE is saying, let's go back and see how is it that we can make it easier for the auditors. And then they've come up with a new accreditation model. The accreditation model, it's meant to make things better. However, we are saying as auditors, we acknowledge what the JSE is trying to do to accommodate us. However, there are some concerns still with the accreditation model because they still make a link to the EBA results. And we're saying the EBA inspections are done for a different purpose. The EBA, when they come to inspect the auditors, they want to see that the auditor is in compliance with the professional standards. They are not necessarily questioning your competence, whereas the JSE looks at it as though it's a competence results. Therefore, it's inappropriate for them to look into those inspection results.
So the presently listed companies have been listed through the regulations that are going to be amended. Yeah. How is it going to change the playing ground?
Look, I think for us is what the JSE is hoping to achieve is that the firms can have more people accredited because of this new model that not only looks at the EBA inspection results, but also take into account internal monitoring results, etc. But we are actually saying, yes, we see that, but the fact that you make reference to the EBA inspection results that is prepared for a different purpose, that's why that's the concern that we have. We say it's inappropriate and therefore it's not really going to help us. So what you are aiming to achieve, we understand. However, we don't see how that can be achieved for as long as that reference is still made.
Is it going to change the auditing and reporting processes? Because, I mean, when you look at the new Companies Act and the King 4 Reporting Act, also it looks at ways and means to make sure that the whole process is transparent.
Yes.
And whenever there are these intricacies of some of the flaws in the reporting process, they are able to be exposed through the auditing processes. Do you think that it's going to really change the landscape in as far as the company reporting processes are concerned?
Look, that area is actually an area that is regulated by the EBA and not necessarily the JSE, because the EBA is the one that accredits the auditors in order to practice as an auditor. in this country, you need to be registered with the EBA. You may already be aware that the World Economic Forum has rated South Africa for 7 consecutive years as #1 in reporting standards and auditing standards. And who's monitoring all these standards? It is the EBA that is monitoring all these standards. And we are actually saying the processes that the EBA already has to monitor and to accredit auditors, it's stringent enough. Therefore, the additional requirements by the JSE is additional burden, and it's a barrier to entry to especially smaller firms that are not already playing in the market. For example, you may already know that the EBA is introducing the mandatory audit firm rotations, whereby the listed entities will have to rotate the auditors within a period of 10 years. It's not yet effective. So the smaller firms that are not already playing in that space are hoping that they can have a chunk of that. Currently, you might be aware, 96% of the JSE listed entities are audited by the Big Four. That is huge. The rest of us share only 4%. And some of the rest of us want more of that 96%. However, with these stringent additional rules by the JSE, people are not able to enter that market, and that is the barrier to entry that we are talking about.
But then are you not able to increase your capacity so that you can grow and enlarge your territory?
You would still need to go through the additional accreditation process, which makes reference to the EBA. And we go back again to say the EBA inspections are not intended for the use of the JSE, are intended to ensure that the auditors comply with the professional standards. It's not about the competency of the auditors. There's another model that the EBA use to check competency of the auditors, which is why they accredit them as registered auditors. And that model alone and the monitoring stringent processes that they have is why you see South Africa as #1, meaning it's working well.
So now that these issues are available for public comment,
yes,
what are your submissions in a nutshell? And eventually, what would you like to see happen? Because I would wonder if you're garnering for support in this, and are there people who are singing in from the same hymn book as yourselves?
Look, we've given detailed responses to the JSE. The deadline was last week, Friday. I would like to believe that most firms who already have done that. What we would like to see is for the JSE to go back and say, because if you really go back to when this whole accreditation process started about 8 years ago, audit quality, I myself was an inspector back in the days for the EBA. So the audit quality was not really of that high standard. But the audit quality has really improved because of the monitoring by the EBA. So what I would like to see is for the JSE to have confidence in that process. The fact that you are a registered auditor, it means you can sign off that JSE report. Additional requirement about understanding the JSE requirements, etc., is what they need to focus on.
Right.
So that's what I would really like to see, that then if that is done that way, then this mandatory audit firm rotation will benefit us and other firms who want to come into the market.
All right. Noted that. Well, good luck with your submissions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we are speaking here to Yvonne Kgoedi, who is from the Sizwe Ntsaluba-Gobodo. She is the Audit Risk Manager. And of course, we now focus on other news. The Eurozone finance ministers have agreed on short-term measures